Hey guys, what's up? This is Brian with Bear Cards 34. Today I'm doing another show and tell video. This is for the 1982 Topps football card set. It's a 528 card set. This right here is Ken Anderson, who had a great year during the 1981 season. So the cards came out the next year for 82, but these would, obviously highlight the year before. So for the 81 season, Anderson was an All-Pro. This is what the typical back of the card would look like. It has some information about the team, like so here a Cincinnati Bengal team record, as well as statistics and a little blurb about the player. The players who had All-Pro recognition, like Ken Anderson here, would get it across the top. Now, the nice thing with this set is that finally Topps had permission from the NFL to use its licensed materials. Thus, we get to see the logos and no more of the annoying airbrushed helmets, so you could really see what you were intended to see. The best players were able to have a highlight in action card. So this is an example for Ken Anderson. And in addition to that, there are record breaker cards like every other year. Ken Anderson had the most completions in a game of a Super Bowl, so they made that. And the packs had inserts of stickers. So right here, this is the Ken Anderson All-Pro sticker. And right here is, I believe, just his standard base sticker, maybe you'd call that. So anyway, quite a lot of good products here in the 82 set. As with previous sets, they also highlighted some of the championship games. So this is the NFC Championship game. This would have been a great game, I imagine. 49ers 28, Cowboys 27. And then we have the Super Bowl card right here. You'll see the 49ers won 26-21, and of course that was also a classic game. Along with the record breakers and playoff cards, each team also had a team leaders card. Here, of course, I picked the Bears. No bias to that whatsoever. And this is pretty cool. You have the quarterback sack leaders down here, two Hall of Famers in Dan Hampton and Alan Page, as well as Hall of Famer Walter Payton. And on the backs, instead of a checklist of the players, you actually had the schedule and then the win-loss record for the team. So those are pretty nice too. And as was typical of Topps back then, you'd have the checklist cards. The other interesting thing about this set was that it was ordered by team, and the teams were ordered alphabetically by the city name, and then the players were also ordered by last name alphabetically. Some of the key rookies in this are Lawrence Taylor, Ronnie Lott, Anthony Munoz, Chris Collinsworth, Freeman, Mcniel, James Brooks, Drew Hill, among others. And we'll get to those guys. Because I'm from Utah, I always like to include, part of my personal collection, my PC includes players who played college ball in the state of Utah. So right here I had two players from my alma mater, Utah State. Running back Rick Perros led the Broncos in 1981 in rushing, and Rulon Jones right here. In a way, this is Rulon Jones' rookie card. He had quite a nice career with the Broncos. He's featured in the team leader card, but he didn't have his first actual card until a year later. So this right here is Rick Perros, running back for the Broncos. He was drafted in the 4th round, played for the Broncos from 81 to 84. And then he had 2 seasons with the Seahawks in 85 and then again in 1987. Another local guy, Gifford Nielsen. He played at BYU. He's a Utah native. He was an All-American in 1976. Drafted in the 3rd round and played from 78 to 83. And then right here we had Mark Wilson, also a BYU quarterback. He was 3rd in the Heisman voting. I think it must have been his senior year. He is a 2-time Super Bowl champion, but those are both as a backup to Jim Plunkett. He was kind of considered to be the starter. The Raiders really wanted him to be the guy, but Plunkett, partially because of injuries and partially because Plunkett could win, Plunkett, for the majority of the time, stayed as the starter, and Mark Wilson never really did too much in the NFL. And then he was with the Patriots to finish out his career. I think he retired in 1990. And then this is a fan favorite of the Utah State Aggies as well. This is Eric Hipple. And these were all rookie cards for these 4 local players. So Eric Hipple was a 4th-round pick of the Lions. He played with them from 1980 to 1989. In 1986, he was the NFL completion percentage leader. So that's kind of his little thing. He also wrote a book. I can't remember what it's called. Men Do Cry, or I don't know. Anyway, he did write a book that was really good a few years back. If you guys ever want to look into it, and you can check it out. So this right here, this is a Randy McMillan rookie. Those were the only 4 local Utah players that I noticed in the set. But anyway, this is Randy McMillan rookie. For those who are Colts fans, you may know of him. He actually had a fairly good career. Unfortunately, it ended early. I think he was hit by a car in like 1986 or 87 and had to retire because of that, unfortunately. We also have the Chris Collinsworth rookie card. Now, most people nowadays know him as a commentator for the NFL football games, but he was actually an excellent wide receiver. He was a 2nd-round pick, played his full 8-year career with the Bengals, went to 3 Pro Bowls. So definitely had quite the great career. And here's his in-action card as well. Next up, we have one of the greatest offensive linemen of all time, Anthony Munoz. Definitely considered one of the greats. 11-time Pro Bowler, 9-time first-team All-Pro, part of the 100th anniversary all-time team. Here's Lyle Alzado. I just always really liked Lyle Alzado. Super intense guy. He did play for the Browns between the Broncos and the Raiders for 3 years. And he was actually traded to the Raiders for the 82 season. So this is an example of back in the day, the cards came out a year later. So this card came out in 1982, and he was actually on the Raiders. So nowadays, if we had a card like this, we'd either see a superimposed Raiders jersey on him, or at the very least a Raiders logo, or maybe an updated card where he's actually in a Raiders uniform for real. So anyway, next up we have Tom Jackson. Again, he's another guy who's been pretty popular with the NFL broadcasting later in life. 3-time All-Pro, though. Great player. And then next up we have this card right here. This is the Kansas City Chiefs team card. The reason I mention this, for starters, though, J.T. Smith down here ended up having quite the career with the Cardinals later on. But this is Joe Delaney up here. One of my all-time favorite football players. Even though I never saw him play, I was too young to have ever seen him. But just his story, they did a documentary on NFL Films. I'll try to include a link to that documentary in the description here. But Joe Delaney was a terrific running back for the Chiefs during his career there. He played the 1981 and 1982 seasons, and in his 2 seasons with the Chiefs, he set 4 franchise records that held up for over 2 decades. He was a 2-time All-American at Northwestern. He was a track and field star, super fast guy, and he was the Offensive Rookie of the Year that year, 1981. So right here is his actual rookie card, and in the back you'll see I have a PSA 9 of Joe Delaney as well. His rookie year, he actually kind of finished. He had a 196-yard rushing performance against the Houston Oilers in November of his rookie year. And Oilers defensive end and future Hall of Famer, this guy right here, Elvin Bethea, he actually said after the game, he said, "I've played against the best. O.J. Simpson, Gale Sayers, Walter Payton, and Delaney ranks right up there with them. He is great with a capital G." So that's about as nice of a compliment as you can get. So just a super great player, Joe Delaney, during those 2 years. So he had a lifelong history of helping others. There's a story about how he once paid for the funeral of a former teacher whose family couldn't afford a proper service. I mean, this was just a great guy. Unfortunately, in June of 1983, just before the start of his 3rd season, Delaney, he went with some friends to a place called Critters Creek, which was an amusement center in Louisiana. And the report is that he was kind of discouraging some children from venturing too far out in a pond, and some kids got stuck in there, and it's reported that what happened was that he heard a couple kids screaming for help. He jumped in to help, and there was a water hole that was left by some construction work, and the water hole was quite large. It was 6 feet deep, and it was not intended for swimming, and it was kind of just there for looks. And so even though Joe Delaney did not know how to swim, he jumped in and tried to rescue the boys. And one child did survive. One child was able to get out without harm, and then another was taken to emergency room where he unfortunately passed away. But anyway, Joe Delaney went in for that third kid as well, and he never came up, and that child and Delaney both passed away. And so unfortunately, a great career cut short, a very heroic gesture by this man to go in there and risk and ultimately lose his life, to try to help someone in need. There was a big funeral service for him. 3,000 people attended. President Ronald Reagan honored Delaney with the Presidential Citizens Medal. He for the 1983 season, the Chiefs actually wore, and this is a card of Bill Kenny, their quarterback. You'll see up here, right here, the Chiefs wore this circular patch that had a gold eagle and then the number 37 on the upper left chest of their uniforms as a tribute to Delaney. And this is the inaction card for Joe Delaney right here. You'll see this. And Joe Delaney's nephew is a guy named Terrence Marshall Jr., who's actually a wide receiver at LSU right now. So he potentially has some more football in the future there. This card right here, I know just because it's Steve Fuller and because I'm a diehard Bears fan, and he was the backup to Jim McMahon for the 1985 season. So he was part of that 85 Super Bowl that, as a Chicago Bears fan, I continue to pretend is still going on currently. The 85 Bears are always with us. All right, this next card here is Pat Leahy. I just included that because back in the 90s when I was a kid, I wrote to Pat Leahy and he autographed this. He sent me this picture. I always thought that was really nice. So shout out to Pat Leahy. And right here we've got a Freeman Mcniel rookie card. So in 1981, he was the third overall pick from UCLA. Had a really good career. He's kind of underrated. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler, and he was the 1982 rushing leader, and he ran for over 8,000 yards. So he had a very good career there. Next up, I'm just going to show this card because I'm a huge Goonies fan, and that's John Matuzak, who played Sloth in Goonies. So had to show his card. Okay, so this right here is the rookie card of James Brooks. He is one of my all-time favorite players. Something about the way he played, the way he ran, I loved. He had these giant shoulder pads that just looked so cool on him. He was the 24th pick of the draft by the Chargers from Auburn. He had a 12-year career. He played his first 3 years with the Chargers, and then he was traded to the Bengals for this guy right here, Pete Johnson. Now, Pete Johnson was a fine running back, but he was 30 years old, considered out of shape, had been having some drug problems, and somehow the Chargers traded James Brooks for Pete Johnson. I'll include a little video of James Brooks highlights in case anybody is not very aware of him, because he was awesome. He really, really was. He was great at running, receiving, returning. And it's considered, the trade with Pete Johnson, this guy right here, I'll mention this, it was considered one of the worst trades in Chargers history. It was one of the best trades in Bengals history. So James Brooks went on with the Bengals to have almost 10,000 all-purpose yards just for the Bengals. Pete Johnson for the Chargers had a total of 53 total yards ever for the Chargers. So really one-sided trade there, obviously. So James Brooks went on, like I said, to be with the Bengals and had just a great career with them, multiple 1,000-yard rushing seasons. He also was the only player between 1968 and 2005 to be part of the 30-30 club, which is 30 rushing and 30 receiving touchdowns, and only 7 players ever have done that. And he ended his career with almost 15,000 net yards of all-purpose yards, which is 36th all-time. So shout out to James Brooks, great player. We also had some statistical leader cards. This right here is the one of note, the passing leaders. Unfortunately, they did not make the rushing leaders cards a handful of years, and that was because the AFC rushing leader was often Earl Campbell. And after his rookie season, he after the 1979 Tops season, he refused to let his cards be made. So they just didn't make the rushing leader cards for a while. This right here, they also did a shout out to Football Brothers. This one is Dewey and Leroy Selman. We also had Archie, Heisman Trophy winner, 2-time Heisman Trophy winner Archie Griffin and his brother Ray. Some of you might remember the Barr brothers, a couple of kickers, played for a while. And then, of course, Eddie and Walter Payton. Love that picture of Walter. Very good. So these, that was kind of a nice little shout out to some of the players to acknowledge the brothers, the siblings. This right here is Vince Evans. He was a 6th-round pick of the Bears, played with them from 77 to 83. He really became unhappy when the Bears drafted McMahon, and he was losing time to McMahon. So he ended up signing a contract with the USFL. He ended up having a super long career, though, because he went on to play for the Raiders from 87 to 95. And so he played into his 40s. So he had a really long career. He's also the only Chicago Bear ever to score a perfect quarterback rating in a game, which he did in 1980 against the Packers. Obviously, we got my boy Walter Payton right here. I've got a PSA 8 of him in the background, and then this is a card of his that I pulled. So I did, the majority of this set was handmade by me through opening packs. And these were packs that would have been around 7, 8 years old, 9 years old by the time that I actually purchased them. But my local card shop had a few, or had a lot actually. So I would buy these along with the newer cards. And so the majority of these I got in packs, and then a few of them I've just found over time. So this right here is the Matt Suhey rookie card. He was a fullback for the Bears. He would block for Peyton, played with the Bears for 10 years. Major fan favorite of Chicago. His dad is a former NFL player, Steve Suhey. I actually have his card. I should have found it. I could have showed it to you guys. It's super old. It's from like 1948 or 1950. Anyway, he and Walter Payton were so close. And what's cool is you can see Walter right here. So you got Matt and Walter together. They were best friends. They were so close, in fact, that Matt Suhey became the executor of the Walter Payton estate after Walter's death. It's just great teammates right there. And speaking of great teammates, this right here is Everson Walls. Now that's his rookie card as well. And you'll see from this interception leader, he did very well his rookie season. So he led the NFL in interceptions as a rookie. And he was an undrafted free agent. He's from Texas. And he ended up having I think it was 13-year career, won a Super Bowl with the Giants, 4-time Pro Bowler. He led the NFL in interceptions 3 times in 1981, 82, and 85. And only Ed Reed is the only other player to have done that. So he was not drafted, and he signed as an unrestricted free agent. And when I mentioned good teammates on the last card that I showed, Everson Walls ended up donating a kidney to his former teammate Ron Springs. So back in 2006, Ron Springs, due to diabetes, was in need of a kidney, and Everson Walls was a match. And so he donated his kidney to Ron. Now, Ron did pass away a few years later, but definitely had some extra time thanks to Everson. This right here is Billy Sims. This is his 2nd-year card. He was, again, when you talk about players who were just great but had a short career, Billy Sims is up there. He was the 78 Heisman Trophy winner, only played 4.5 years, 3-time Pro Bowler. Halfway through his 84 season, he had a catastrophic knee injury, and I found out that he had actually rehabbed for 4 years, and in 1989 offered to come back and play and said he'd play on a blank check, and that the owners could just pay him based on what they thought he deserved. The head coach, Wayne Fontes, actually was interested in that, but of course they drafted Barry Sanders, and he being, one of the greats of all time, nothing ever really became of that, but I thought that was kind of interesting. He had tried to make a comeback. This right here is Drew Hill. He was one of my favorite receivers growing up. He had a 14-year career. He's just 5'9", but he played for the Rams to start, but he didn't really make a mark for himself until he went to the Oilers with the run-and-shoot offense with Warren Moon. Made a couple of Pro Bowlers. He's also the very first player to ever score a touchdown in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And what's funny is James Lofton ended up doing the same, but one game later. So he was the first. He's also the first player to ever have 1,000 yards in a season after age 30. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2011 after suffering 2 massive strokes. He was only 54. But great player, great talent. And then here's the card of Walter's brother, Eddie. And then I've got right here, speaking of family, this guy's Archie Manning. I believe he had a couple kids who played football in the NFL. I'm not really sure who they are, but you guys can look into that. Right here we have George Rogers. Oh, and just in case I get a million comments, I was being sarcastic. Right. But here's George Rogers. So this guy, underrated running back. He won the Heisman in 1980 with South Carolina. He was the 1981 Offensive Rookie of the Year. He was the rushing leader for 1981. In fact, right here you'll see he broke the record for most yards rushing by a rookie in a season. And what was interesting is Earl Campbell broke this record after the 78 season. And then the year later, Otis Anderson broke the record in the 79 season. And then 2 years after that, George Rogers broke that record again in the 81 season. But he was a great running back. He ended up being a Super Bowl champion with the Redskins in 1987. Right here we have a Phil Simms. A lot of you guys will know him. Now here's the kind of the highlight card, the key card from the 1982 set, Lawrence Taylor rookie card. I pulled this out of a pack, so it's probably, I mean, it's in okay condition, but I'm interested in maybe buying a graded card of his in the future. But, Lawrence Taylor, I think everybody who knows football knows this guy. Here's his in-action card. And then I did pull this sticker of him a long time ago as well. So that's kind of a cool card. So Lawrence Taylor, 2-time Super Bowl champ, 1986 MVP. Not defensive MVP, but most valuable player altogether. He's one of only 2 players to ever do that. He had 20.5 sacks that year. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 8-time All-Pro, 10-time Pro Bowler. Just, had some, struggles off the field, but man, one of the greats of all time. Here's Neil Lomax. That's his rookie card. He was a second-round pick for the Cardinals. He played with them from 81 to 89, and he was actually really good. He was a 2-time Pro Bowler in 84 and 87. What happened, though, was he ended up having to retire after the 89 season because of an arthritic hip, and it was so bad that he had to have a hip replacement in 1991. So, 2 years after he's retired early, and he's already had a hip replacement. His teammate, Stump Mitchell, he's actually a pretty important coach right now in the NFL. He's the running backs coach for the Cleveland Browns, and with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, he's got quite the arsenal there for his team. So he's the running backs coach for the Browns, and he actually was a really good football player as well. He had over 1,000 yards rushing during the 1985 season, and second most all-purpose yards in franchise history for the Cardinals, behind only Larry Fitzgerald. He also averaged, in 1985, he averaged 5.5 yards a carry. And even as a rookie, you'll see right here, he had an NFL record, most punt and kickoff return yardage in a season, as a rookie. Right here, we have a Ronnie Lott. This is the other big rookie of the 1982 set. So Ronnie Lott, obviously, Hall of Fame player, 14-year career, 49ers, Raiders, and Jets, but mostly he's known for the 49ers. One of the best safeties of all time, 4-time Super Bowl champ, 10-time Pro Bowler, 2-time leader in interceptions, and his number 42 is retired by the Niners. Here's his in-action rookie card. And then right here we have Fred Dean, Hall of Famer. Unfortunately, just as of this video, a week before this video here that I'm filming now, he passed away from COVID-19, unfortunately. So just really sad to hear that. But he was definitely a great player. Also played with the Chargers a little bit too. Here we have a Joe Montana second-year card. Whoa! Now you'll notice if you watch the show and tell videos, I've kind of been going chronologically up. And I did not do a 1981 top set. That's just because I don't have the 1981 top set. And the main reason I never tried to get it is because I don't have his rookie card. And that's an expensive card. So I just never really Never really tried, but maybe one of these days I will. And then I also have on here, we've got Doug Williams, just, made famous with the Super Bowl win with the Redskins. And Joe Theismann, just to kind of round things out. So that's pretty much everything other than I'm going to show you, I did pull a couple of Montana Super Bowl MVP stickers back in the day when I opened the pack, so I thought those were pretty nice. And along with all the other sets that we talk about on here, lots and lots of Hall of Famers that you can get. So if you're interested in completing some of these old sets, maybe just completing collecting a team or a certain player, or the complete set, these are really very affordable. And as we've seen cards go, I don't think Gastineau's a Hall of Famer, but he's real close. But as you can see with these, the cards nowadays, even retail packs are just going for so much money, so expensive. But you can still buy sets and individual cards from this time period for a relatively good price. I think I just glanced at it. I didn't really look very hard, but I saw some sets of this 82 Topps going for anywhere from $85 to $180, and I'm sure some of that depends on the conditioning as well as the seller. But these are very affordable considering. And for me as a hobby collector, I love the new stuff. I love getting the numbered cards, the autographs, the jersey cards. Well, the jersey cards, unless they're game worn, they don't do it for me anymore. But some of the patches are pretty cool, though. I'll admit that. But anyway, if you're interested in the history of the game or just the hobby as a whole, I really think it's great to kind of go back and check out the players and the stories and everything that came before. And you can really add a lot to your collection, your set by doing that. So that's part of the reason I share these videos, is just to kind of acknowledge, the hobby from the past. These cards came out when I could never have been a collector. I was too young, but I appreciate the set. I appreciate the players. And I remember some of these players from when I was older, and they were a little further along in their career. So, I'd encourage you guys, if you love the sport, if you love the hobby, to maybe consider going back a little bit. And for those of you who were around during this time period, I'm sure you have some great memories as well. Anyway, if you guys like these videos, I do show and tell videos from time to time. I also open some hobby packs, some retail packs, boom boxes, things like that. So feel free to like if you enjoyed the video. I'll make more of these again in the future. Feel free to subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more content like this. And for the rest of you, I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you for watching. I know these show and tell videos can be a little bit long. I'm a little too thorough maybe, but I appreciate you sticking with me. And everybody have a great day. Take care.